I thought my life had finally settled. Not perfect, but steady, comfortable, safe. After my husband Thomas passed, the house felt like a tomb. The bed was too cold. Even coffee tasted wrong without him. We built everything together. A logistics empire, worth $2.7 billion. 40 years of work, sweat, and love. When he died, it all became mine. And I thought, at least I still had Michael. My boy. My only child. He was grown now, 40 years old. But to me, he was still that little boy. The one who ran into my arms after school, smelling of crayons and peanut butter. Then he brought Sabrina home. I remember that night perfectly. She wore a blue dress. Her smile was warm, her laugh soft. And I thought, thank God. He's found someone who will love him. I set the table with my best china. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans almondine. Thomas always said my potatoes could heal a soul. Sabrina asked for my apple pie recipe. She called me Mom. I felt hope again. From then on, Sunday dinners became tradition. I cooked pot roast, meatloaf, fried chicken. We sat at my table, candles glowing, talking about work, about plans, about nothing at all. It wasn't flashy, but it was family. And after losing Thomas, family was everything. Michael had his father's ambition, always chasing business deals, new ventures. I gave him money more times than I should, but that's what mothers do. We believe, even when no one else does. I told him not to worry. One day, all this would be his. Sabrina, though, had bigger ideas. She talked about influence, about power. She asked questions about the company's assets. At the time, I thought nothing of it. She was family. Families talk about everything. Holidays felt alive again. Thanksgiving, with a 20-pound turkey. Christmas, with a tree touching the ceiling. Sabrina insisted on placing the star. Michael steadying her waist, smiling. She said, "We're building new traditions, Mom." I smiled, though something pinched inside. Still, I wanted to believe. I told myself, this is enough. This is family. Don't overthink it. Life felt calm again. I joined a church book club. I planted roses in the backyard. I sat on the board, but mostly gardened. I believed the storm had passed, that losing Thomas was the worst life could bring. But storms gather quietly, just beyond the horizon. And I didn't see it coming. I only saw sunshine. I saw Michael smiling across my table. I saw Sabrina pouring me sweet tea. And I thought, this is good. This is safe. We are a family. I had no idea how wrong I was. At first, everything seemed normal, but small things began to change. It started at Sunday dinners. Sabrina would ask about the company books. Not casually, but with sharp intent. How much is the New York warehouse worth? Do you still own those 50 trucks? Her tone was polite, but her eyes calculating. Michael sat beside her, silent. Sometimes he nodded. Sometimes he just looked down. I told myself they were curious. Young people ask questions. But something about it unsettled me. One evening, I walked into the kitchen. Sabrina was rifling through my desk drawer. Papers spread out, my late husband's documents. When she saw me, she smiled too quickly. "Oh, Mom, I was just looking for a pen." Her hand shook slightly as she closed the folder. I nodded, but a seed of doubt planted itself. Another time, I overheard them whispering. I had gone upstairs for a sweater. Through the vent, voices drifted up. Sabrina's, sharp and insistent. "She's not getting any younger, Michael. We need to be prepared." My heart thudded against my ribs. Prepared for what? I stood frozen at the top of the stairs. Michael said nothing for a long moment. Then I heard his low voice. "Not now. She trusts us." Trust. The word stung like ice. Because trust was all I had left. I tried to dismiss it. Grief can twist your mind. Maybe I was imagining shadows. But the shadows grew darker each week. At Thanksgiving, the shift was clearer. I roasted a 22-pound turkey. Stuffing, cranberries, pecan pie, the works. Family filled the house. Laughter and clinking glasses. But Sabrina didn't laugh that night. She whispered to her sister in the corner, "The estate alone is worth billions. Imagine what we could do with it." I pretended not to hear, but my fork shook as I lifted it. I stared at the turkey, suddenly tasteless. In December, they invited me on a drive. "We'll take you to see the Christmas lights," Michael said, his smile a little too rehearsed. We drove through neighborhoods glowing with decorations. Inflatable Santas, reindeer, strings of LED icicles. Families sipping hot cocoa on porches. It should have been joyful, but in the car, the air was thick. Sabrina pointed at houses, making comments. "This one's too small, that one's outdated. But the land value here, Michael, it's gold." She turned to me, her voice honeyed. "Mom, don't you ever feel this house of yours is too much?" Her eyes flicked toward Michael. "Wouldn't it be easier to downsize?" Downsize. As if the home where I raised my son was just clutter to sweep away. Michael squeezed the steering wheel, silent, his knuckles white in the glow of street lamps. For a second, our eyes met in the rearview mirror. His gaze slipped away instantly. That night, I sat by the fireplace alone. The stockings hung, the tree glittering, but the warmth had drained out of the room. I tried to cling to memories. Michael's first Christmas toy train set, Thomas's booming laugh over eggnog. But all I felt was the chill of doubt. By January, the questions turned sharper. Sabrina cornered me after dinner. "Mom, do you have a will prepared? It's important, you know, for the family." I swallowed hard. "Yes, Sabrina, everything's taken care of." Her smile was too sweet. "Good, that will make things simpler." Simpler. The word echoed in my chest like thunder. I began to notice more. Michael spending less time with me. Phone calls unanswered. Excuses peeling up. He used to call every morning. "Good morning, Mom. How's your coffee?" Now, days passed without a word. When he did call, Sabrina was always beside him, her voice filling the gaps, her laugh too sharp. One Sunday, I walked into the living room. They were hunched over my laptop. When they noticed me, Sabrina slammed it shut. "Oh, we were just checking the Wi-Fi," she said. Michael wouldn't meet my eyes. Later, when I turned the computer back on, a folder had been opened. Estate documents. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan. Its blades spun round and round. Like the questions in my mind. Were they planning something? Or was I just paranoid? Was grief twisting me into a suspicious woman? But the whispers wouldn't leave me. Neither would the memory of Sabrina's words. She's not getting any younger. The next morning, I looked at myself in the mirror. 66 years old. Lines around my eyes, silver in my hair. But my mind was clear. My body, still strong. I was not ready to be erased. Still, something was coming. I could feel it in my bones. Like storm clouds gathering far away, shadows creeping over the horizon. And deep down I knew, this was only the beginning. Spring had just arrived in New Jersey. The chill of winter was fading away. Daffodils pushed through the soil in my yard. For once, I felt maybe life was steady again. That morning, the phone rang. Michael's number flashed on the screen. My heart jumped, like it always did. His voice sounded warm, almost boyish. "Mom, we want to celebrate. Just you, me, and Sabrina. Let's take the boat out this afternoon." The words washed over me like sunlight. He hadn't invited me anywhere in months. Not since Thanksgiving, not since Christmas. I said yes, before doubt could whisper no. I ironed my navy dress, the one Thomas always loved. Pearl necklace, pearl earrings, neat hair. If this was reconciliation, I wanted to look strong. The marina bustled with spring energy. Families walked the docks, kids clutching sodas. Seagulls screamed overhead, wings flashing white. Michael was waiting at the pier. He hugged me tightly, too tightly. It felt practiced, not natural. Behind him, Sabrina leaned against the railing. Her sunglasses hid her eyes, but her smile was sharp as broken glass. The yacht gleamed in the morning sunday. 35 feet of polished fiberglass. Too new, too expensive for their supposed struggles. We boarded, the deck smelling of fresh varnish. Michael poured mimosas into tall glasses. Sabrina handed me one with a grin. "To family," she said. I lifted the glass, hesitating. The champagne bubbled against the orange juice. Sweet, cold, almost too sweet. The boat pulled away from the dock. The river opened wide and glittering. Wind tangled my hair, cool and salty. For a while, it felt like old times. We laughed about weather, about small things. Michael asked about my roses. Sabrina complimented my apple pie again. But then, her questions returned. Too sharp to be casual. "Mom, do you still own the New York warehouse? How many trucks are still on the books? When will you finally update your will?" Michael sat stiff beside her, silent, sometimes nodding, sometimes avoiding my eyes. I set my glass down slowly. "Why are you asking these things?" "Because we care," Sabrina said sweetly. "Estate matters can get messy. It's better to prepare early." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. A shiver ran up my spine. Michael leaned forward, sliding papers across the table. "Just some transfers, Mom. For your protection. If something happens, Sabrina can handle things." I stared at the papers. Black ink. Signatures already printed in places for me. "I'm not signing," I said firmly. "Take me back to shore." Michael's jaw tightened. His voice turned to stone. "I'm afraid that's not happening, Mom." The world tilted, suddenly unfamiliar. The river stretched around us, endless. No witnesses, no neighbors, no help. "You've been slipping," Sabrina said coldly. "Doctors agree. Early signs of dementia." I laughed bitterly, though my heart raced. Sharper than both of them put together. But terror scratched at my chest. Michael wouldn't meet my eyes. He stared at the river instead. My son, my only child, choosing silence over me. I whispered, "What if I refuse?" Sabrina leaned close, her perfume sharp. Her voice was soft, almost gentle. "Then accidents happen, especially to women your age." Her hands pressed hard against my back. The deck vanished beneath me. Sky spun, river rose up. Cold water closed over my head. The shock stole my breath instantly. My navy dress dragged me down. Pearls snapped, scattering like lost stars. Above, voices blurred through water. Michael shouted, "Mama!" Too loud, too rehearsed. Sabrina spoke quickly into her phone. The boat didn't stop. Its engine roared, pulling away fast, leaving me to drown in silence. I kicked, thrashing, lungs burning. Thomas had taught me to swim. Morning laps for 20 years together. My body remembered, even in panic. I tore off my shoes, fought toward the surface, gasping. The river slapped me down again. Salt and silt burned my throat. For a moment, I almost gave up. The water was too strong, the betrayal heavier than the river itself. But something inside me hardened. I would not die here. Not like this. Not erased by greed. I clawed my way upward, breaking the surface, coughing, choking. The yacht was already a white speck, shrinking fast against the horizon. I floated alone, body shaking. Heartbreaking truth crashing over me. My son wanted me gone, and my daughter-in-law made it happen. The river swallowed me, but somehow, I clawed back to air. I don't remember how long I floated. Minutes? Hours? The cold numbed my body, not my mind. By the time a fishing boat spotted me, the yacht was long gone. Michael and Sabrina were gone. Rough hands pulled me aboard. A scratchy blanket wrapped around me. The fisherman shook his head. "What kind of people leave you like that?" I couldn't answer. The words were stuck behind salt and grief. He dropped me at a small dock, quiet, hidden, miles away from the marina. I stumbled into a motel off Route 29, dripping, shivering, clutching the last shreds of myself. That night, I turned on the TV and saw my own obituary. Local businesswoman Helen Marshall presumed dead. Accidental fall from yacht. Family devastated. There was Michael on the screen. His eyes glistened, his voice steady. My mother was confused lately. We did everything we could. Beside him, Sabrina dabbed her cheeks with a tissue, her face the picture of grief. But I saw the smirk hiding in her eyes. I gripped the motel remote so tight it cracked. They weren't just trying to erase me. They had already succeeded. By morning, the news spread everywhere. Neighbors left flowers at my gate. Church friends posted prayers online. Reporters replayed the same photo of me, smiling at a charity dinner years ago. But I wasn't there. I wasn't home. I was alive, sitting in a damp motel room, watching strangers mourn a woman still breathing. The worst part wasn't the lies. It was the silence. No one called. No one doubted. Michael had given them the story, and they believed him. I tried my phone. My number was already disconnected. I typed my name into the bank portal. Access denied. My accounts frozen. Piece by piece, my life was vanishing. I drove past my own house once. Slow, careful, hiding behind sunglasses. The front lawn was covered in lilies, ribbons tied to the porch rail. Through the window, I saw Sabrina. She was laughing, glass of wine in hand. Michael beside her, head bowed, as if in mourning, but his shoulders relaxed, relieved. I wanted to pound on the glass, to scream, "I'm still here," but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I kept driving, mile after mile, until the road blurred. At the company office, they held a press conference. Sabrina stood at the podium. Her black dress hugged her like armor. With Helen's tragic passing, we will ensure stability for employees. Michael and I will take responsibility. Flashes popped from cameras. Reporters scribbled notes. No one questioned her. No one doubted her. The empire Thomas and I built was slipping into their hands, and I couldn't stop it. That night, I returned to the motel. I sat on the bed, damp carpet under my feet. The air smelled of bleach and loneliness. I thought of Thomas, of his voice, steady and sure. He used to say, "Storms pass, Helen, but you have to hold on." I wanted to believe him, but all I felt was the weight of loss. Not just loss of money, or status, or the house with roses out back. It was the loss of trust. The boy I raised, the man who once clung to my hand. Now, he had let me sink. I pressed my palms together, prayed, maybe for the first time in years. God, show me why I'm still here. The motel clock ticked past midnight. Outside, trucks rumbled down the highway. Inside, I was a ghost in my own life. Everyone thought I was gone. Everyone except me. And for the first time, I wondered if being invisible might be my only advantage. In the days after my death, the lies only grew stronger. Sabrina played the grieving widow-in-law. Michael stood beside her, silent, eyes down. But I watched from the shadows. Motel room television, newspaper clippings, a laptop borrowed from the front desk clerk. At first, I thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe fear made me see betrayal everywhere. But then the truth became undeniable. One morning, the Trenton Times ran a headline, "Marshall Legacy Secured. New Leadership Steps Forward." There was Sabrina on the front page. Her black suit tailored perfectly, pearls at her neck. Michael stood behind her, shoulders squared. The article quoted Sabrina directly. "With Helen gone, it's time for a new chapter. Michael and I will protect the company's future." Protect. That word burned in my chest. Protect from who? From me? The woman who built it? I scrolled through photos online. Sabrina shaking hands with board members. Michael signing papers. Smiling. Smiling as if he hadn't watched me drown. The next week, they held a charity gala, supposedly in my honor. Tickets sold for $500 a seat. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers. Waiters carried trays of champagne flutes. Sabrina wore a sleek black gown. Michael in a tailored suit, hand on her back. I saw it all in the live stream. Reporters praised their resilience. They called Sabrina the new matriarch. Matriarch. The word twisted like a knife. She didn't just want money. She wanted my place. My role. My identity. On stage, Sabrina gave a speech. Family legacies must evolve. Helen would have wanted progress, not clinging to the past. The crowd applauded. Michael nodded beside her, his face blank, almost carved from stone. I slammed the motel laptop shut. My hands shook with rage. It wasn't just theft. It was erasure. They weren't stealing my fortune. They were rewriting my story. Even my house was changing. Neighbors whispered when they drove by. I overheard them at the diner one morning. Shame about Helen, but Sabrina's really fixing that old place up. Yeah, Michael finally looks free. Free. That word nearly broke me. Free from his mother. Later, I parked down the street. Watched from behind tinted windows. Pain twisted in my chest. The roses Thomas and I planted? Ripped out. Replaced by a concrete patio. The curtains I sewed by hand? Gone. Replaced with sleek, white blinds. Through the window, I saw a painting. Not of family, not of memories. Abstract art in black and silver. Cold. Empty. Just like them. Inside the company, they weren't subtle either. An employee leaked a video online. A boardroom meeting. Sabrina at the head of the table. Michael sitting beside her. From now on, Sabrina declared, all major decisions go through me. A man coughed nervously. But Mrs. Marshall always— Mrs. Marshall is gone, Sabrina snapped. Get used to it. Michael said nothing. He just stared at his hands. The silence louder than her cruelty. I pressed my palms to my temples. My son was gone. Or maybe he'd been gone all along. The empire Thomas and I built, now a stage for Sabrina's ambition. Michael, her puppet. And me, erased from the script. That night, I couldn't sleep. The motel AC rattled. Dusty curtains fluttered in the draft. I stared at the ceiling, tears drying into salt on my cheeks. But grief shifted into something else. Not despair. Resolve. If they wanted me erased, I would become their shadow. If they wanted me forgotten, I would become unforgettable. I whispered into the motel darkness. You wanted me gone, but I'm still here. And I will not let you win. For weeks, I hid like a ghost. Cheap motels, diners off the highway, cash payments, no ID. But a person can't live as a shadow forever. Sooner or later, someone sees you. One morning, I walked to a diner, 2 miles from the motel. The sign flickered, half-burnt neon. Inside, the smell of bacon and coffee. Waitresses carrying plates of pancakes and hash browns. Truckers hunched over mugs, eyes on the road ahead. I slid into a booth, ordered black coffee, no sugar. The waitress raised an eyebrow. Long night? Long life, I muttered. That was when I saw him. The fisherman who pulled me from the river. Sitting at the counter, cap low over his brow. He noticed me too. His eyes narrowed, then widened. Well, I'll be damned, he whispered. You're alive. I nodded, throat tight. He slid into my booth. Name's Frank Doyle, he said. Runs a trawler downriver, 50 years on the water. Beside him, a lanky teenager waved shyly. My grandson, Tyler, helps me run the boat. Frank leaned in. Tell me the truth. What happened that day? I told him everything. The boat. The papers. The shove. The lies. His jaw tightened. Your own kin? Over money? Not just money, I said bitterly. She wants everything. The company, my name, my place. Frank sat back, shaking his head. I've seen storms, ma'am, but this one's man-made. Tyler whispered, we should call the cops. Frank silenced him with a look. Cops can't fight money, boy. This is bigger. His words echoed what I already knew. I couldn't just walk into a station. They'd call me crazy. Or worse, send me back to them. Frank tapped the table. Then you need proof. Not just stories. Something solid. Proof. The words snapped, like a lifeline. Evidence could save me. Evidence could destroy them. Frank offered me a spare room. An old farmhouse, 20 miles out. Peeling paint, creaky floors. But it was safe. At night, I lay awake in that farmhouse, listening to crickets outside, Tyler's soft snore down the hall. I felt something I hadn't in months. Not safety, but the beginning of hope. The next day, I borrowed Frank's laptop, logged into company filings. Sabrina's name was everywhere. New signatures. Rapid transfers. Documents dated the week after my death, but the sloppiness betrayed her. I found one contract she'd signed, Helen Marshall. My name. My signature forged. I printed it out on Frank's old machine. The paper warm, proof in my hands. Then, I checked the county court records. More filings. Petitions for guardianship over me. Medical incompetence, they claimed. Backdated to before the yacht. It was a complete erasure. They hadn't just wanted me gone. They wanted the law to declare me incapable. As if I'd never been whole. I sat back, the farmhouse walls spinning. Frank poured me black coffee. "You've got your evidence," he said. "Now you need a plan." Tyler leaned forward eagerly. "My school has a journalism club. They know how to leak stories online. We could get this out." I smiled faintly. "Not yet, son. Timing is everything." Frank nodded. "Sometimes the right fight isn't loud. It's passionate. Like waiting for the tide." I tucked the papers into a folder. My hand shook, not from fear, from resolve. For the first time since the river, I wasn't just surviving. I was preparing. They thought I was dead. They thought they had won, but I had allies now. I had proof, and I had a plan forming. This storm wasn't over. It was only beginning. The farmhouse creaked in the spring wind. Every night, I spread papers on the kitchen table. Contracts, forged signatures, bank transfers. Frank brought coffee, strong and black. Tyler hovered with questions. Too many questions. "Why don't you just go to the cops?" "Because they'll say I'm delusional," I said. "Or worse, send me back to them." Frank grunted. "He's right, you know. Money shields monsters, but paperwork cuts through armor." He was right. I didn't just need anger. I needed a strategy. I started making calls. Burner phone, prepaid minutes. I called an old friend, a lawyer named Diane Keller. Diane had worked with Thomas years ago. Sharp mind, steel backbone. If anyone could help me, it was her. We met in a diner, 40 miles from Trenton. I wore a baseball cap low, my sunglasses too big. Diane slid into the booth. She gasped, hand over her mouth. "Jesus, Helen. They said you were dead." "I might as well be," I said. "They've taken everything." I spread the papers across the table. Her eyes scanned quickly, lips tight. "This is fraud, forgery, theft." Her voice sharpened. "And if you're alive, it's also conspiracy." I nodded. "Can you help me?" She leaned closer. "Yes, but timing is everything. If we move too soon, they'll bury you again. We need the right stage." "The will reading," I whispered. Diane's eyes narrowed, then softened. "Exactly. Let them think they've won, then take it back." For weeks, we worked in silence. Diane filed quiet motions. Frank delivered documents. Tyler searched archives online. At night, I practiced. What I would say, how I would stand, how I would look Michael in the eye. I imagined Sabrina's face, her perfect mask cracking, her smile dying in the silence. But preparation is never clean. One evening, driving back from the courthouse, I saw Michael's car, parked outside Frank's farmhouse. My stomach dropped. I pulled over, heart hammering. Through the window I saw him, my son, standing in my ally's yard, talking to someone on the phone. I ducked low, waited until he drove away. When I entered, Frank shook his head. "Relax." He was asking about boat licenses. Didn't see a thing, but doubt crept back anyway. What if he knew? What if Sabrina suspected? That night, I lay awake, listening to the farmhouse groan. The world smelled of dust and old wood. Fear clawed at me again, but resolve burned stronger. I couldn't stop now. I was too close. Diane sent me drafts, affidavits, petitions, legal daggers in black ink. "Keep these safe," she said. "They'll be our weapons." Tu la grine. Feels like a spy movie. Frank snapped at him. "This ain't Hollywood, boy. This is life or death. Life or death." The words sat heavy in my chest. Because he was right. Still, hope was growing. like weeds through cracked concrete, stronger every day. And one night, as I looked out over the fields, I whispered into the dark, "You tried to drown me, but I will rise. And when I do, you'll wish the river had finished me." The law office smelled of oak and coffee. Dark wood panels lined the walls. A long table stretched 12 feet across. Leather chairs gleamed under fluorescent light. I hadn't been here in years, not since Thomas signed the last update. Now, this room would decide everything. Diane walked beside me. Her heels clicked sharp against marble floors. "Stay quiet until I cue you," she whispered. "Let them believe the lie." I nodded, heart pounding like a drum. My palms were damp, pearls cool on my neck. Inside, they were already seated. Sabrina, at the head of the table. Black suit, hair slicked back, smile rehearsed. Michael sat at her side. Eyes hollow, hands folded too tight. I searched his face, but he never looked up. Board members filled the other seats. Suits and ties, murmurs and shuffling papers. A silver coffee pot steamed at the center. The attorney, Mr. Collins, cleared his throat. "Today we gather to read the last will and testament of Helen Marshall." A chill slid down my spine. Hearing my own name, spoken as if I were already buried. Sabrina dabbed her eye with a tissue. "Such a tragedy," she said softly. "But her legacy is safe with us." Her words slithered through the room. Polite nods followed. A few sympathetic glances at Michael. Collins opened a thick envelope. Rustling papers echoed like thunder. "The will is clear," he said. "All assets remain in Helen's name. Control of the company rests solely with her." Silence fell. Sabrina blinked once, then forced a laugh. "That must be outdated. Surely she changed it before her passing." Collins shook his head. "This is the most recent version, filed and notarized 18 months ago." Gasps rippled around the table. Michael shifted in his seat, his face pale as parchment. Sabrina leaned forward. "Then we'll contest it. On grounds of mental decline." She flashed a confident smile. Board members exchanged uneasy glances. That was Diane's cue. She rose smoothly, her voice steady. "On behalf of my client, I have documents to present." She laid out the folder. Contracts, forged signatures, guardianship petitions. "Evidence of fraud and forgery," she declared. "Submitted after Helen's so-called death." The room erupted. Murmurs, gasps, shifting chairs. Sabrina's face stiffened. Michael pressed a hand to his temple. Then Diane stepped aside. And I walked in. Gasps turned into stunned silence. Shoes scraped against the floor. Chairs creaked as bodies leaned forward. I stood tall, pearls shining in the light. Alive, breathing, unbroken. Sabrina's jaw dropped. Her lips moved. No sound came out. Michael's eyes finally met mine. And for a heartbeat, the little boy I raised flickered inside him. But then he looked away. Shame painted across his face. I spoke, voice steady. "You tried to erase me, but I'm still here. And this company, this family, will not be yours to destroy." The board members shifted, whispering. Some nodded. Others stared at Sabrina, eyes wide. Mr. Collins tapped his papers. "Given the fraud presented, and Helen Marshall's presence here today, there is no question. Control remains with her." Sabrina surged to her feet. "This is impossible. She drowned. She was gone." Her voice cracked, high and raw. She looked at Michael for support. But he sat frozen, his hands gripping the chair arms. I turned toward him, my heart breaking all over again. "My son," I whispered. But he didn't move. Diane gathered the evidence, sliding it into her briefcase. Her eyes locked on Sabrina. "You're finished," she said calmly. The room buzzed like a hive. Phones lit up, texts flying. News would spread within hours. The empire she thought was hers was slipping like sand. And for the first time, Sabrina's mask truly cracked. The boardroom shook with whispers. Papers rustled like leaves in a storm. Sabrina's face burned red. Her hands clenched tight, nails digging skin. "This is fraud. She staged this." But no one believed her. Not after seeing the documents. Not after seeing me alive. Mr. Collins rapped the table. Order. This meeting is adjourned. Control remains with Mrs. Marshall. Chairs scraped. Board members rose quickly, some avoiding Sabrina's glare. Others shook my hand, grateful relief etched on their faces. Reporters waited outside the office. Microphones thrust forward, cameras flashing. Mrs. Marshall, how did you survive? Did your family try to kill you? Will you press charges? I kept my voice steady. The truth will speak for itself. And justice will follow. Diane guided me through the crowd, her grip firm on my elbow. Don't answer too much, she murmured. Let them stew. The press will eat Sabrina alive. And they did. Within hours, headlines blared. Widow returns from dead. Daughter-in-law, accused of fraud. $1 billion betrayal in Trenton. Neighbors gawked when I walked down Main Street. Some hugged me tight, crying. Others shook their heads, disbelief plain. But everywhere I turned, Sabrina's name became poison. Her charity partners cut ties. Her friends deleted photos online. Sponsors withdrew from her foundation. The empire she built on my grave crumbled overnight. Michael didn't fare better. At first, he hid behind silence. But reporters hounded him at every step. Why didn't you stop her? Did you help plan it? He looked thinner each day. His suits hung loose. His smile cracked like glass. The final blow came a week later. Law enforcement arrived at their mansion. Black SUVs lined the driveway. Agents carried boxes of files and laptops. Neighbors whispered from porches. Children pointed from the sidewalk. Sabrina was led out in handcuffs. Michael followed, face pale as chalk. On the evening news, I saw her shouting at the cameras. This is all lies. She's framing me. But her voice shook, her eyes wild, hair falling loose. The mask was gone. Michael said nothing, not one word, just lowered his head and climbed into the waiting car. At the courthouse, the truth spilled fast. Forgery charges, fraud, conspiracy. Diane sat beside me, calm and steady. They'll fight, but the evidence is strong, and the court won't show mercy. Outside, Frank slapped my shoulder. Storm's breaking, ma'am. Told you it would. Tyler grinned, holding up his phone. Your story's everywhere, Mrs. Marshall. People are calling you unstoppable. I smiled faintly. Not unstoppable, just unwilling to drown. But even victory carried weight. At night, in my house again, I walked through rooms stripped bare. The roses were gone. Patio stones, cold underfoot. Curtains replaced. Walls painted white. Their fingerprints lingered everywhere. Erasing me had been their mission. And for a while, they had succeeded. I sat on the edge of my bed, the silence heavy, but no longer empty. Because outside, justice was moving. Slow, steady, relentless. And for the first time in months, I let myself believe. The worst had passed. Sabrina had fallen. Michael too. And the empire was mine again. But the cost of betrayal would never leave my bones. The house was quiet again. Too quiet. I walked through every room. My footsteps echoed against fresh paint. Curtains gone, roses ripped out. But it was still my home. I touched the oak banister. Thomas built it with his hands. Every scratch, every groove held memory. In the study, dust coated the shelves. But one photo still remained. Thomas, Michael, and me. A summer picnic, 30 years ago. I sat in the chair, photo in hand. Tears blurred my vision. How did we get here? How did love twist into betrayal? The world outside called me strong, unstoppable, victorious. But inside, I felt the weight of loss, of a son I no longer knew, of a family broken beyond repair. Sabrina was gone. Michael was facing trial. The empire was back in my hands. But nothing felt the same. Neighbors dropped by with casseroles. Church friends left flowers on the porch. They said, "You're a miracle, Helen." I smiled, but inside, I wondered, was I? Or just a survivor? In a war I never wanted? At night, I lit a single candle, placed it by Thomas's photo. The flame flickered gently, a reminder that even in darkness, light endure. I whispered to him, I kept it safe, Tom. Our life's work, our legacy. They tried to bury me, but I rose. The words felt heavy, but also freeing. I stepped outside onto the porch. The spring air smelled of fresh rain. The street was quiet. Lamplight stretching down the block. I thought about Michael, the boy who once clung to my hand, the man who chose silence instead of truth. Sometimes those you love most become strangers, and that pain never fully heals. But I also thought about Frank and Tyler, about Diane, about every person who stood by me. Proof that even when blood betrays, there are still good people in the world. I breathed deep, the night cool on my skin. Life had broken me, but it had not ended me. And maybe that was enough, because truth has a way of surfacing, like a body in a river, like light in the dark. Even family can betray you, but lies never last forever. Justice will always find its way. Sometimes, the ones you trust most are the ones who cut deepest. But even in betrayal, truth rises, hope returns, and light breaks the dark. Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories of family, betrayal, and justice.